Hi everyone, welcome to 15 Minutes in the Forest. I'm Jennifer Gagnon, coordinator of the Forest Landowner Education program at Virginia Tech. And today I'm joining you from my farm outside of Snowville in Montgomery County, Virginia. As coordinator of the Forest Landowner Education program, I oftentimes hear from new landowners who are realizing that there's more to owning forest land than just making the initial purchase. Owning forest land involves spending some money, exerting some effort, and committing some time. So today I'm going to walk us through some of the things that I recommend to new forest landowners. Things that can help save them money, save them effort, and save them time. And hopefully in the long run, improve the health and productivity of their forest and make owning forest land a more affordable and enjoyable experience. A goal is a big picture statement about how you want your land to look and to function at some point in the future. Goals are general statements, so they don't have timelines associated with them, nor do they have a list of activities that you need to conduct in order to achieve them. A goal can be something like, I want to have a healthy forest, or I want to have good wildlife habitat, or maybe I want to have a quiet, fun place to spend time with my family. So after purchasing your property, I recommend that you work with your family members to come up with a list of 3 to 5 goals as to why you own your forest land. If you'd like to learn more about developing your goals, I recommend watching this video that I created last year. So now that you bought your property, I recommend becoming more familiar with it. I'm sure before you made your purchase, you looked at some maps and walked around a little bit, but I'm also sure that there is still a lot to learn about your land. I would start by gathering maps for your property. Fortunately, we live in a time when there are a lot of free mapping resources available on the internet, if you're comfortable using that. The first place I would start is by getting the tax parcel map for your property. And these are available hard copy form at your local tax assessor's office, or a lot of counties in Virginia have an online GIS system with these maps as well. But bear in mind the tax parcel maps are not always accurate. The second resource I would recommend is Google Earth. Google Earth is a free online tool that will help you map your property. You can create boundary lines, you can delineate different land uses on the property. And the other cool thing that you can do is you can look at how your property fits in at the landscape level. What are your neighbors doing on their properties, and how does your property fit into that? Finally, I recommend taking a look at the Web Soil Survey. This is another free tool available from the Natural Resources Conservation Service that'll allow you to see what kind of soils are on your property. And this information can be important when you're making land management decisions. If you want to learn more about all the different mapping tools that are available, I recommend watching this video from my colleagues Neil Clark and Mark Books. Another thing that your maps can do is to help you locate your property's boundary lines. Now, if your land has recently been surveyed, which is the case sometimes for newly sold properties, then all of your property corners should be well marked. I recommend going out and finding these markings and keeping them up on a regular basis so that you can find them in the future. If your property boundaries are not well marked or you haven't had a recent survey, I recommend looking into hiring a surveyor to do this work for you. It's a one-time fee, and you can keep up with the boundary lines after that. Why are boundary lines so important? If you're conducting any type of forest management activity on your land, you want to make sure you're actually doing it on your land and not on your neighbor's land. And likewise, if your landowners are doing anything on their property, like a timber harvest, if your boundary lines are well marked, that'll help their logger know where to stop cutting timber. Having well-marked boundary lines can also help prevent adverse possession. That's your neighbors building on your property. And finally, well-marked boundary lines can help prevent trespassing. You'll want to take a look at your deed to see if there are any rights-of-ways granted on your property. Common types of rights-of-ways include access points. So our property has 2 access point rights-of-ways. So they're deeded through neighboring properties so that we can get to our own. But your neighbors could have a deeded right-of-way through your property to get to their property. There's also utility rights-of-ways, so gas lines, power lines, cell tower access. We have a power line right-of-way that runs through our place, which gives the local power company access to come and clear their lines. Knowing about these right-of-ways early on is helpful because then when strangers show up on your property, you'll be able to quickly know whether or not they have the legal right to be there. So even if you don't have a mortgage, owning land is certainly not free. There are a lot of recurring expenses associated with owning rural land. The first big expense is property taxes. I know here in Montgomery County we had a big property tax increase last year. If you own farmland or forest land, you may be able to qualify for a reduced property tax rate if your county has a land use taxation program. Many counties in Virginia do. Check with your local commissioner of the Revenue's office to see if there is such a program in your county and if your property qualifies. And even if your property does not have a land use program, you still may be able to get reduced property taxes if you have a conservation easement on your property or if you're enrolled in something called an ag and forestal district. Again, check with your local commissioner of the Revenue's office. Another recurring expense for rural land is insurance. You want to make sure that you have a good farm policy with high liability coverage to protect your assets in case anyone gets injured on your land. And finally, there are maintenance expenses, and this is the one that truly caught me off guard. We spend more of our disposable income on gravel than I would have ever expected. We have a half-mile long driveway. My husband is the official road crew, and so we buy the majority of the gravel. Occasionally one of our neighbors will chip in, but we pay for the majority of it. We also pay for the tractor and the diesel fuel. Other recurring expenses include things like maintaining boundary lines, maintaining fences, maintaining old outbuildings. You can certainly spend a lot of money maintaining your property, but knowing what those expenses are, you can include them in your budget and plan for them. Montgomery County, Virginia does have a land use program, so we do qualify for reduced property tax rates because we have more than 20 acres of forest land. But even if Montgomery County does away with this program, we'll still continue to qualify for reduced property tax rates because our land is under a conservation easement. Another important financial consideration is establishing the basis of your property. The basis is the amount of money it costs you to purchase it, as well as any other incurred expenses. You can also include any management expenses you incur during the life of your forest. Establishing basis is important because basis can be subtracted from the amount of income you receive in a timber sale, thus reducing the amount of taxable income. How you calculate basis will depend on how you have acquired your property, whether it was purchased, inherited, gifted, or exchanged. The National Timber Tax website has information on how to calculate your basis. And even if you've owned your land for a while, you can still back calculate what the original basis in your land was at the time of acquisition. Of course, one of the best parts about owning rural land is getting to know it and exploring the nature that's all around you. I highly recommend walking through your property at different times of the year to see what it looks like in every season. This little valley here has an ephemeral spring that runs through it, usually in the springtime, and I did not come to this side of the land until after we had owned it for about 2 years. So it was really a pleasant surprise when I came out here in April and found the creek running and these hillsides just covered with spring wildflowers, trilliums, bloodroot, absolutely amazing. So that was a really nice treat. So walk around your property, try to identify the trees and the plants that are out there. And even if you aren't an expert in these things, there are plenty of websites and resources to help you learn about them. Now, with all this walking around on your property, you obviously want to stay safe. And two of the most common safety concerns I hear from folks are about ticks and about snakes. There are 4 different kinds of reportable tick-borne illnesses in Virginia, and the number of reports have been increasing in recent years. There are about 1,000 reported cases of Lyme disease in Virginia last year. Ticks are active year-round in Virginia. So to stay safe from ticks, I recommend first keeping your indoor pets treated for fleas and ticks. Second, after being outdoors, come in, take a good scrubbing shower, and then check your body thoroughly for ticks. If you get bitten by a tick and you're concerned that you may have a tick-borne illness, take the tick and put it in your freezer, and as soon as you can, send it to the Old Dominion University Tick Team. You can use their website to find their contact information. They can run diagnostics on the tick to find out what it may or may not be carrying. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have good recommendations for how to safely remove a tick if you do get bitten. To stay safe from snakes while you're out and about on your property, one of the best things you can do is be able to recognize the 3 venomous species of snakes that occur in the Commonwealth. If you do get bitten by a venomous snake, use your car keys to drive yourself to the nearest hospital as quickly as possible. Do not attempt to lance the bite or suck the poison out. Although about 3,000 people a year in the U.S. get bitten by venomous snakes, only 5 to 10 people die from those bites. To put that into perspective, between 15,000 and 20,000 people a year die from side effects of aspirin. So mortality from a venomous snake bite is extremely rare. Another way you can stay safe while you're out on your property is to wear sturdy shoes and to be aware of your surroundings, especially if you're down on the ground digging around with your hands. Keep an eye out for these snakes. Oftentimes they're camouflaged and difficult to see. Now, maybe all of this seems overwhelming to you. You just bought land, you're in the middle of moving, you're trying to learn your new neighborhood. You don't have time to learn to identify 20 different species of trees. Well, if you bought land in Virginia, you are very fortunate because there are hundreds of natural resource professionals who work for state agencies whose job it is to help you learn more about your property. Many of these folks are able to meet with you on your land and walk with you and tell you what you're seeing and also help you determine what steps you need to take to help meet your ownership goals. In addition, the Forest Landowner Education program that I coordinate offers numerous resources and classes to help teach you these things as well. Please reach out to us. I'm happy to put you in touch with your local natural resources professionals and make recommendations for educational programs that can help you achieve your goals. Well, thank you for spending 15 minutes in the forest with me. I hope you'll join us again in 2 weeks at 12:15 for another edition of 15 Minutes in the Forest. Have a nice weekend.